Today on the Dream Big Series podcast, we have Dan Weller with us. Dan is originally from Hays, Kansas, which is about 100 miles from where my brother and I grew up in Colby, Kansas. We were in a lot of the same circles, but never actually knew each other back then. Dan has a really, really great history in music and stories of just what he's come up through and to where he's at today, which is the auxiliary player, guitar player, keyboard player, and a number of other things for Florida Georgia Line, one of the biggest country groups in the world. Dan is going to talk today about a few things, some of them being the corridor of opportunity, the power of a care package, the rule of three, how music is a business, and also just what it means to work a room. There's so much great information on this podcast with Dan Weller, and one of the things that you can do is share this with people that you think would benefit from it. You know, it takes creativity for every one of us to go throughout our day and do what it is we all do, whether that be, whether you're a writer, you're a musician, you're a mechanic, you're an accountant, it just doesn't matter. It all takes creativity to function, and learning from other creatives is the way we get better and the way we grow. Welcome to the Dream Big Series.
This is Chad Borkwin, and this is the Dream Big Series. I am a professional musician and recording artist that has been fortunate enough to learn how to get paid doing what I love. But this didn't just happen for me. In fact, I have years of doing things other than music that have all played the part of the success I get to experience now. But more importantly, I've learned the value of having the right people speak into my life and how that is the key to breaking free of old limiting habits. So if you're tired of being stuck and you believe there is more for you in life, the good news is everything I've done is a result of what I've learned, and it can be taught. Join us as we bring topics and guests onto this show to provide you with valuable insights on how to get to your big dream. This is the Dream Big Series. Welcome to the show.
All right, welcome to the Dream Big Series, and I am very excited about today. We've got a friend of ours that we've had for some time now, Dan Weller.
It's me.
Dan Weller is originally from Hays, Kansas, which is...
Central.
Almost
Central Kansas.
Yeah. It's about 100 miles from Colby, which is where we grew up.
True.
I drove to Hays every Sunday to take guitar lessons from Fulton.
Did you really?
Back when I first started.
I don't know that I knew that.
So yeah, that was quite
awesome.
That was the beginning of commitment there.
Awesome. Yes, Fulton. Hey.
Yes. So,
what a great guy.
Man, Dan, I'm excited for a lot of reasons for this interview because Dan's got an extreme knowledge of the business of music. Dan plays with Florida Georgia Line, has for quite some time. But he does more than just play with them. I mean, he's been with them for quite a while, and he's going to share a lot of that stuff. But before we do that, Dan, talk about how'd you get started in music? How did a little bit about the transition that happened from running your own music, your own band, and all those things to playing with Florida Georgia Line
to
today? Yeah. Can you do that 30 seconds?
Really good choices, really bad choices, a lot of luck, a lot of really good people, and a lot of work. There you go.
Right.
So
that was
5 points.
10. You've got another 20 seconds.
That's kind of in the nutshell. Dad played guitar when I was a kid. I kept taking his classical, which there's photos of me where I'm playing the neck because I think I'm like, at this point, maybe 6 or 7 with a book trying to figure out chords. So the body of the guitar is over here, and it's funny. Mm-hmm. But they decided to find somebody to teach me lessons. And we had somebody that was really, really kind and was willing to work with a young kid. His name was Mark Selby, who wound up going on to being a phenomenal songwriter, crazy good guitarist. Lost him a few years ago, very sadly, way too early. But he was my first guitar instructor, and I blame everything else on him that has happened because he was kind of like that initial superhero. Dad was probably the first guy, but he was the one I went and saw him playing clubs and saw him do all the stuff. And I'm like, man, that's really cool. Wound up going and studying with his instructor at Fort Hays State University. and did that for quite a while, which was fingerstyle stuff. So classical jazz, flamenco. Worked in the jazz ensemble. I started playing in bands at 16 and learned a lot, as you tend to do, by stubbing your toe. There's no such thing as failure. You just, unless you do it again.
Right.
But if you learn from it, and I got a lot of opportunities to learn, still do. But wound up, we took the jazz ensemble rhythm section. We all got along really well. This is at Fort Hays, and found a local singer, and we wound up and started playing clubs. And that's really kind of how this whole thing got started. The business end of that, we had a gentleman, his name was Bernie Schulte. He was in the business department in the band and the jazz ensemble, but was just a really, really savvy guy. And we just discussed, so we took our band, owned a van, trailer, PA, lights, all of our gear, and started reinvesting and got a second set of trailer, PA, lights, and started hiring people through the university. So when they'd have somebody come in, they had fun fostering our entrepreneurial endeavor. So they would hire us. Mm-hmm. So we'd have somebody come in there for smaller artists or speaking engagements, and they would hire our production crew, basically. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how the business side of things for me got ticking, learning, going through all that. Fast forward a few years, wound up in Wichita with a band while I was a student at Wichita State University in the entrepreneurship department, not the music department. Hmm. I did study and do some stuff there, but wasn't a student per se. And we wound up this band breaking nationally on radio through a bunch of smoke and mirrors, stuff that we set up. It started getting calls from all these major labels because we were getting airplay in prime markets on prime times, and they couldn't get their artists to break, and nobody had a clue who we were. The guy that we recorded the music with asked him if he'd be willing to set up as our guy for the label, mm-hmm. to take the phone calls. And he started getting all these phone calls, and people were, like, who the hell are you? How'd you do that? He's like, I don't know. But we'll spin back to that in a little bit. Yeah. But so that led to that break happened with a bunch of guys that thought it would be fun to try to break a young band old school. So it was a bunch of program directors, largely in the country market. They were friends of another friend of mine. I don't know if you know Dan Holliday. Mm-hmm. He was on radio for years. Yeah. Lovely human being. Yep. Still a good friend. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of had this idea, and we pulled all these people in that were program directors that just thought it would be fun, and it worked. So we got spin on all these rock stations because they were like, it has to be cool. Let's see if we can do this.
So it was an experiment that went well.
It was an experiment that went well. Hmm. And it was all grassroots, just good intentions. Everybody just thought it'd be fun.
Yeah.
And another good learning experience. But because of that, I wound up getting all these contacts in the country world. Fast forward a little bit more. We can touch back on that departure. But I wound up in Dallas and started getting offers to go work with artists in Austin and Nashville through some of those contacts I'd made. And that's kind of how all this happened. It's just the corridor of opportunity theory, as they say, where one door opens and you get this whole passageway of new opportunities that wouldn't have been there had you not stepped through that first door. So first door was band in Wichita, and then these people, and then moved down to Texas, got closer to stuff. Somebody calls, you go, sure, I can do that. And you go out and you do it and learn. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so one thing kind of led to another. And when I was in Dallas, I was working in Nashville and Austin, and my wife and I moved back here right before our son was born. So largely the big chunk of what's happened career-wise for me has been while I've been here in Kansas City.
How did all this land then into the gig with Florida Georgia Line? And you had a couple other gigs I know in between there.
Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit. When we moved here, I did the stay-at-home dad thing for the first 5 years for our son. My wife and I talked about that when we were dating. One of us would, and we both sent out resumes, and she got a great opportunity here in Kansas City. So I literally was in Austin with Ragweed and Drew Womack, and I can't remember who else it was, basically a roving fraternity bus kind of thing. And then flew to Kansas City and was Dad. It literally was that day.
Wow.
Like that day ended and I came here and stayed in town. And I did a couple of things just to keep a toe in the water. I think around maybe 2007, I had a friend of mine and he pulled me in kind of cleanup duty on a few artists, like into the summer, touring guys need to work. This guy's wrapping up his gigs and this other person's got more stuff coming up, so we'll jump on a new thing. Mm-hmm. So I kind of did cleanup duty on a few tours.
Meaning you went in and would play the rest of the tour?
Yeah. Yeah. So okay. That might be a couple of weeks. It could be a couple of months. It could be, whatever it was, which was fine for me. That's the commitment I wanted. I wanted to, you're out of sight, you're out of mind. So keep making sure that people are like, hey, don't forget me. Mm-hmm. But so that kind of led to other things. I wound up getting on with an artist named Colt Ford. Mm-hmm. And spent a couple of years with him, and that was an absolute blast. More learning experiences, lots of really cool opportunities. He was a very, very generous person in the sense that he uses his road band for a lot of stuff in the studio. He owns his own label, so he would be developing new artists, and we would get to go record for them because we were a pretty cohesive unit, and everybody had studio experience. So lots of really cool opportunities through him. But while I was out with him, we were doing a lot of club dates, and I would go out and watch all these bands because I love that. Seeing different, you could still find different vibes and stuff in different markets. And we were somewhere, and this band I'd never heard of was out, and it was sold out, and they were great, and everybody in the club was singing every word to every song that I'd never heard of before. And I went and got Colt. I'm like, you got to come check this out. It was FGL.
Yeah. We
wound up doing all these shows together. And over the course of it, we got to be friends because they're just good guys. And at some point, I wound up putting together care packages for them off of our unused bus stock. Mm-hmm. So it was like bread, peanut butter, and then one time somebody goes, "Do you have any vodka, tequila?" I was like, "Gotcha." So our tour manager at the time really liked him too, so we would just put this stuff together, and every couple of weeks he'd be like, "Yay!" And I'd go harass them on stage, take out a bottle of tequila, throw the cap out there, and force feed them while they were playing. Mm-hmm. Just, like, yeah. But they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna hire you." And we add a guy, and this is before anything. They got the round robin of players. They're still in a van and trailer. I'm like, whatever, thinking I'm about done, with the touring stuff, and so yeah, their stuff started picking up, and they're just such good guys. I wound up rolling off of the Colt gig. We were doing over 200 shows a year, and I wanted to be home for a while, and thought I was done. About 9 months later, started getting that itch, and they were looking to add a guy, and I thought, this is going to be it. Mm-hmm. So the last tour is going to be literally just with people I want to be out making music with. So I had a very short list of three people. One is a friend here in Kansas City. Another one, Tyler Farr, who I was out with Colt. And I would do occasional shows with him. Was doing radio tour stuff at the time, and had put a band together, and FGL. And so I sent them a note, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm done, but if you need somebody to be fun." And they were like, "Well, we need a piano, organ, dobro, mandolin, banjo, acoustic, rhythm, lead electric background singer." I was like, "Sure."
Again, you just said yes.
Yeah. Well, but I was super honest with him. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I can do like 2 of those things. Okay.
Yeah.
And the rest of it, like, I can home sweet home the hell out of a piano.
Right.
So I was like, I can do your stuff, but beyond that, I'm not going to be your guy. If you need somebody that's going to be out there doing a honky tonk piano and crazy B3 organ stuff, I can cover parts, but creating is another thing in that aspect. I'm just not that savvy and that deep in the instruments to feel comfortable with it. But anyway, I wound up auditioning for it, and for me, it was let's go have a good day. I'm going to go drink some beers at the end of it, and you'll see my friends. And if I get the gig, cool. If not, I had a good time.
Right.
And I was hoping I'd be their 5th best option. And they wound up calling me surprisingly, and I was like, "I'm it." Wow. It's like, I'm the best you could do. Legitimately, they had a lot of really good dudes there, and like for whatever reason, and a lot of it, you know how it is. There's a lot aside from just the skill set. There's vibe, look, personality. Mm-hmm. When you're out on a gig, it's more about being in a metal tube with somebody 22 and a half hours out of the day as opposed to the 90 minutes on stage. Like, anybody can do that. It's like, how can you survive in this pressure cooker constantly? And that's kind of what it was. I think that wound up getting me the gig is an ability to deal with a lot of different personality types and not kill anybody.
So I want to get into some other parts of the meat of the business here, but before we do that, if it's all right, we're going to do a quick ad because we've got a free PDF book to help
which is
musicians.
Awesome. Yes, exciting.
So we're going to go to that right now. We'll be right back. The music industry is drastically changing and for the better. The power to have a successful music career is in your hands and no longer up to a few gatekeepers. The key is having the right information, the right tools, and committing to do the work. I want to help you jumpstart your career with my free ebook called Play Music, Make More. This free ebook is everything we've done with our own group, as well as what I've learned being an entertainment agent, and it's all played into the success we've had as independent artists. Visit playmusicmakemore.com to get your free copy today. And we're back here with Dan Weller talking about his career with Florida Georgia Line and everything else you've got going on. So last week we had Joe Mills on, by the way, which is
awesome. What a great guy.
A friend of yours, a longtime friend. Yep. Joe, we did Confessions of a Tour Bus Driver, and one of the things he talked about was a good hang.
Yeah.
You know, what it takes to stay on the tour bus. And he had some stories about people that were off the first night, you know.
Yes.
So, and that's what I've heard already so far, a lot of in your story, is that a big part of what has happened for you is you're just a good hang.
I try to be.
Yeah.
There's a thing that they call the rule of three.
Yeah.
It's the money, the music, and the hang.
Mm-hmm.
If you get any two of those, if you think about anything you've ever taken gig-wise, if you get any two of those, it's a great gig. If you've got a great gig, a great hang, and the music's killer, but the money's awful, you'll take the gig. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a blast. If it's a great hang and the money's good, but the music awful, you're still going to take that gig.
Right.
But the brass ring is if you can get all three.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been really fortunate. Our camps had that. So it's been fun. But yeah, and the hang is such a part of it for everybody else. Like, that's a skill set they don't really talk about. Mm-hmm. But that is a thing. Like, when you come in, if your name is not above the door, you have to, when you get there, close your car door, leave your ego inside, put it in the passenger seat, and walk in and get on the bus or the van or whatever it is as a servant of whatever this thing is you're there. It's like, what do I need to do? It's just like having a job.
Yeah.
You don't go into McDonald's and be like, all right, guys. You know, it's like, what do I need to do today?
Right.
What can I do for you? How can I, better my job here? What do we need? Let's go.
Well, and with that, I guess what else I heard in there is you have seemed to have developed this ability, whether it just happened or you've been purposeful about it, to say yes without putting what appears to be pressure on the results. Is that accurate to say?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
One thing, this is going back to the entrepreneurship program. I was in a business consulting class, and I learned a very valuable lesson. I don't remember a lot about it, but I remember this. I went in and met with the client and basically put a proposal together of all I was going to do, and realized I bit off a lot. I went to the instructor and I'm like, I don't know that I'm going to be able to accomplish this. And he basically told me, you agreed to it.
Oh, man.
The client is expecting it. You are going to have to find a way. I was like, good learning moment. Mm-hmm. So within that idea, me saying yes is me saying, I understand what is going to be required on my back end. Do I have the time to invest to go and learn how to play XYZ, learn these songs, whatever it is I need to do? And if I can look at that and go, yeah, then I'll not. But yeah, there's a lot. But yeah, it's a no pressure thing. I'm going to go do the best I can do. I know what my limitations are. I'm going to go put as much as I can into it and put my best foot forward. And another one of those learning moments, if I don't get the gig, it's not a failure. It's like, okay, what can I do differently on that? Yeah. That's the whole thing. It's like, there's getting back to the whole, it's not even so much there's so many factors that go into being chosen to go play for somebody outside of your musical acumen. So there's been times I didn't get a gig and it had nothing to do with my ability. I wasn't tall enough. I didn't have the right look. You know, they wanted a big scruffy looking dude and, you know, short hair, clean cut. Hey, you know, it wasn't a fit. Right. They'd look at the stage and go, what's that? So they want the continuity and, you know, sometimes it's just that simple. It has nothing to do with you.
So a lot of people listening to the podcast are musicians that are looking for a way to do this independently. And I mean, just knowing that's a big part of our audience here. What are just a few top 3 things you'd say, okay, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this?
To do it independently, it's a business. Pure and simple. So understand marketing is paramount. Relationships, it's networking. There's so many people that get opportunities because they were the guy that knew how to go work a room. Somebody that might have been a better writer, a better musician, a better artist, had a better catalog, whatever it was, didn't get the opportunity because they were just a little bit shy. Didn't know how to go out and network, didn't felt that they needed to. So just understanding you as, you know, you incorporated, how can I go out and market myself? That's a really big thing. Understanding the cost behind it and managing finances, keeping a basic budget, inflows, outflows, and prioritizing some things. So you want a lot right now, but what can I do now within my financial limitations? And how can I get that to the next thing? Right. Like start small and keep chipping away. Baby steps. And if you don't take that first one, you won't take the second one. So you got to kind of start, and it doesn't matter. Just start and plug away. But, I don't know. The cool thing about doing it independently right now is, I know before we got started, talked about this. There's no barriers to entry anymore. Record labels have largely become marketing. They're the gatekeepers to get you to TV. Publishers can actually fulfill that role now. So it kind of depends on what you're looking size-wise, market, you know, what is your dream? If you want to go be a worldwide artist, you probably are going to need to have the help of a major label because they've got that infrastructure already in place. If you want to do something that's more nationally, you could probably go meet with a promoter, a publicist, because they're the gatekeepers to major network TV, People Magazine, all that kind of stuff. And they can get you in front of that, get you the press in those markets so you can get a national exposure and still not have to do the major label route. And I say that because you can independently through Play MPE. There's a lot of independent places where you can go and take a song that you've got and use them as a service to go and put it everywhere. On Spotify, they'll put these playlists together. They'll get it out there. They can actually go and send it to program directors for you, depending upon what level of service you want from them. Of course, price ranges change, but you can go out there and have them act again as kind of your record label to go out and put all your material in the right places to be heard for a fee. Anybody that's got a computer and some, a microphone there's a minimal investment, you can go and record. Quality is going to be different. Right. Depending upon your environment and your own skill set, which again, we'll go back to what I was going to say earlier of constantly keep learning new skills. So if you want to go be an independent, there's so much information on YouTube. And if you are in Johnson County and you're a member of the public library, you have access to lynda.com. You don't get all of their data, but you can go in there and basically take an entire college curriculum on sound engineering for front of house, for being a recording engineer, for Pro Tools, for Logic, for Ableton, for any of that stuff. It's on there for free. It's crazy. And again, if you just get on YouTube, there's so many classes and courses you just go and learn. So you should get on there and learn so you can be as adept at all the tools that you need to be an independent artist as you can. Listen to different kinds of music. If there's things out there and it piques your ear, sit down and figure it out on a piano, on a guitar, write the chords out, be like, why does this sound interesting to me? Like, note those kinds of things. I do that. I reverse engineer stuff all the time. I'm like, that was cool. It's like, what is happening in this? Christmas is actually a blast. It's been on my mind a lot because you hear all these old standards, which are so not on the radio these days, with all the cool modulations of keys and around chord centers and stuff like that. So sit down and just figure out why that is. Why does that sound different? That's cool. Okay, why? So it's the learning piece of it. And just don't stop. Constantly keep teaching yourself stuff.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit also before we started recording, but Florida Georgia Line, they're doing this at their level.
Oh,
I mean,
100%.
And so, why wait? Why wait to expand yourself out if you're going to do it, need to do it anyway?
Yeah. So, well, exactly. Yeah. There's, I saw something. It's like 3 things to take out of your vocabulary this year. Is like, I wish, I want, and I can't remember what it was. But it's like, you're the only reason that those aren't happening. It's like, stop that. It's just take action and do it. It's like, put that first foot forward and just do it. You don't know. And they might seem like a mountain, but you don't climb it in one jump. It's like, again, the baby steps, and you're going to get to the top of it. But you got to start making the effort. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much a common theme from everybody we talk to.
I can imagine.
You got to start.
Yeah, you do. You just got to start.
And then you also talked about this. You have to keep going, and you have to treat failures not like failures, but learning moments.
100%.
So this is a fun question for us to ask every time. And think back to when you were a kid, 16 years old. When did you start playing guitar, by the way?
When I was 8.
When you're 8, okay. All right, so you've had 8 years.
Which is going to, this will feed into that answer.
So you've had 8 years of guitar playing. What? You've probably figured out that the girls kind of like it by now. What advice would you give 16-year-old Dan Weller today?
Practice.
All right.
And God bless my mom and my dad for, we're making the investment to get you lessons. You're going to go in your room and we're going to close the door and we're going to hear guitar, by God.
Right. Sometimes loud.
Yeah. And there were periods of time where I was like, maybe for a year, even when I was a kid, I didn't take lessons. And I was like, I really want to go do this again. Like it meant something to me. So I would start studying again and practice. And this went even through college. I do wish now, I think back, I'm like, wow, I could have been really, really good if I'd have practiced a little more. Taking advantage of some of the people around me and their efforts and energies they were putting into me instead of me going, I'm going to go goof off over here. Right. I wished I would have. So that's part of what I would tell 16-year-old me. I would tell 16-year-old me to remember that there's no failure because that was a lesson I had to figure out. No doesn't mean no to you. No means no to something else most of the time. And understanding that and asking what you could do better. If you did get that no, it's like, well, why? What's good? What is a good, it's great that X got this opportunity. What was your deciding factor? Like, I'm just curious. I want to know and learn from that. So those are some questions I didn't ask until later. But, those are probably a couple of the good ones. Enjoy it, and and if you get opportunities, say yes.
That's a great way to end this.
Yes. Perfect.
If you get opportunities, say yes. You've been listening to the Dream Big series with Dan Weller. Hey, please go online and support Dan Weller at either danweller.com which is his main site, or you can find him on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter, and those links will be in the show notes.
You've been listening to the Dream Big series. We would love to hear from you, so please leave us a comment on your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to visit us at dreambigseries.com for more podcast videos and blogs. Also, let us know if you would like to bring the Dream Big series event to your school, corporation, or organization. Thank you for listening to the Dream Big series.